His birthplace is a tiny, pristine village called Hagi Theodori, Saints Theodores, one of 6 villages on the Aegean island of Imbros, or Gocheda, just off the coast of Turkey, near the Dardanelles, the strait connecting the Aegean and the Sea of Marmara. The name Hagi Theodori derives from 2 horse-riding military saints of the early Church, Theodore Tiran, the recruit, and Theodore Stratelitz, the general, always mentioned together because both appeared in a vision to a 4th-century patriarch warning him of contaminated Lenten food. The village is nestled at the foot of Mount Castri, or Arasia, as they call it. While looming large when Demetrios was growing up, the village, in fact, had only 2 churches, one dedicated to St. George, the other to the Dormition of Our Lady, and a primary school, narrow streets with many water fountains, 6 grocery stores, and 5 or 6 cafes. He remembers the stone houses as well as olive trees, lots of olive trees, and almond trees marching up and over the mountainside, while also sprawling in backyards to give shade to the residents in the summer heat. At the time, there were 800 to 850 residents, most of them farmers and shepherds, but there were also shoemakers, traders, builders, and carpenters. There were even a few beekeepers, their hives supplying the sweetness for pastries dripping with honey, and the village abounded in oil and cheese, as well as a little wool. It was, at least in the memory of young Demetrios, an idyllic setting in an idyllic time. Today the island is known for its fishing and tourism, but in those previous years there was far less fishing and certainly no tourism. In fact, it was a rarity for fish even to be available in the markets. As a child, and even after trips to the sophisticated city of Istanbul, Demetrius thought the villagers were shrewd and sharp. Without a doubt they were hardy and tough, albeit healthy and robust with their rigorous and natural lifestyle. Many of them would spend entire months in their farmsteads on the other side of the island, tending sheep and crops, returning to the village only for the major festivals or cold winter months. But it was the olives that were the gold currency, literally the fortune of the village and of the entire island. There were even 2 oil presses. In the fall, Demetrios would enjoy going with his friends to the presses, carrying some warm bread to dip in the oil. The Turkish name for Saints Theodores is Zetinlikoi or Zetinli, which means olive tree village. Bartholomew recalls the women and men rising early to collect the olives, some reaching high on ladders, others sorting on the ground. They would break for lunch consisting of bread and cheese, olives and sardines, then return home late, burdened with large canvas-catching frames. The routine of collecting and returning home would be repeated every day except Sundays for 2 months. In January, he says, the 2 oil presses would operate without interruption until the oil filled the barrels to the brim and its unmistakable fragrance filled the air. They would sell the oil in the spring so they could enjoy first-class coffee in the fall. Overwhelmingly inhabited by Greeks from ancient times until around 1960, Imbros' original residents may have dwindled but never disappeared. In Book 13 of the Iliad, Homer describes a cave in the deep seas between Imbros and Tenedos, its neighboring sister island, as the place where Poseidon kept his winged horses. In fact, the island features in the histories of Herodotus and the Peloponnesian War by Thucydides. History records inhabitants on the island since at least the 5th century before the Christian era. In the Golden Age of Byzantium, as after the fall of Constantinople, islanders lived in relative peace and prosperity until the early 20th century. I remember learning at school in Sydney, Australia, that ANZAC, Australian and New Zealand Army Corps forces, were based in nearby Gallipoli during the dark months of a campaign there in World War I, 1915 to 1916. According to the 1893 Ottoman census, the island had 9,456 residents, 200 of which were official Turkish authorities,